Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of myViewoNBooks. I am having a video issue. Just check. Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. Oh god. Yes, I'm back. Yeah, hope you guys can hear me. There was some trouble in the video output. I've just corrected that. So yeah, you're watching MaddiE with MaddiE. I'm MaddiE Dawson. Welcome back to another episode of My View on Books. I'm going to talk about a new book that I read, The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penham. It's her first book. It's a debut book, and it's basically a novel, fiction novel, and it's absolutely a mystifying story, I would say. I'll just bring up the book cover for you. Yes, you can see the book cover here, and let me check the audio. Yes, audio is good. Yeah, so The Lost Apothecary is a drama fantasy novel. So the protagonists or the lead characters are women, and there are three women, in different centuries, and how they communicate with each other. That's the story. It's kind of told with twists and turns, and the ending was kind of awkward, but it was happy ending. Maybe if it had been a sad ending, I think the story would be more captivating, I would say. Yeah, so we have three characters mainly. So one is Caroline, who lives in the 21st century. So she's an American. So she's a wife, and her husband, is having an affair. So she comes to London for anniversary trip. So this trip was planned. It's an anniversary trip, right? So she didn't know about the affair before. So they planned the anniversary trip to London, and then she comes to know about the affair of the husband. So she decides to go alone. So anyway, I'll take the trip alone, and she goes to London. And when we are introduced to Caroline, she's in London. She's very sad, almost in tears, and she's roaming the streets of London. She had planned so much for this trip, where to go, which place to visit on particular. She has a itinerary, but she is not going anywhere. She just goes to a couple of streets, walks around, and then she encounters someone who's offering basically a mud larking trip. So it's called mud larking, and what does that mean is you just go into the river. River Thames is very famous in London, so you just go into the river and try to pick up something. It could be anything. If you find anything valuable, then you're gonna keep it. So it could be something, an artifact, or artifact from a different century. So that's what is called mud larking. So people will be given dirty gloves so that they don't hurt their hands when you are searching in the river. So you can go to a particular area, not beyond that, and then you can just scout the area, and whatever you find valuable, you're going to keep it. And she was not interested in that, but since her life is in very very awkward and very sad state, so she decides to be adventurous. And also she has this background that she wanted to do a postgraduate on history, but she couldn't do it because her husband was not supportive, and she had to take up this office job with her parents. So this trip is very, very what do you say, life changing for her, and that particular activity, mudlarking activity, is basically changes the life course of her life. So Shri Rishikesh, hi. I would love to read comics books. Good to know. Thank you for dropping by. I'm seeing you for the first time. Good evening, Shri Rishikesh. Yeah, so she discussed something in this mudlarking activity in River Thames, and she finds a vial. Basically, you can see the cover, right? So she finds something like this, and there's a bad logo in it. So it's kind of makes her interest, that old school student interest comes out of out of her, and then she goes to the library. Basically, she digs deep and try to find what is this vial about. So this is 21st century. So Caroline's chapters are all happening in the 21st century, and the first few chapters she discovers this vial in the river Thames, and she's basically digging deep to know more about it. So this is the central character Caroline, and the next two characters are from 18th century, Nella and Elisa. So Nella is apothecary. That's why the name the Lost Apothecary. So Nella is basically an apothecary, and what is an apothecary? It's basically a unlicensed doctor, I would say. So they dispense medicines for the citizens or the people, the community. So if they have any stomach pains or any disorders, so they basically know what each and everything about nature. So from nature they through leaves or bugs they produce medicine, and then they give the medicine. So that is apothecary. And Nella has become very bad, or what do you say? So unfortunately she has become an evil apothecary, I would say. So she dispenses poison, and I wouldn't say evil. Somehow she became this law, what do you say, the evil apothecary. So she dispenses poison to a woman. So woman comes asking her for poison because their husbands cheated on them, or their brother is trying to kill their father for basically will trying to acquire property. So they have been their trust has been breached. They have been what do you say, made sad, and a lot of heartbroken women come to Nella for getting poison, so that they mix it with the food, and the men have the food and they die, and no doctor can find out that the death is because of the poison. So it's basically something like it was food poisoning, or it was spoiled, that's why you couldn't take it. So the cause of death would never be identified and attributed to the poison that Nella distributed. So she lives in a very Hi, Muthukumar. She lives in a very secret location. It's like a abandoned shop, and there's a wall, and nobody knows that there's a shop behind this wall. So only the people who got poison from her, the woman who got poison from her, knows about it. So they just leave a letter that I want to meet you. I need this poison, and it's for this guy who betrayed me, something like that. And then next day she prepares the poison, and they get the poison from Nella. So this is Nella. She lives in the 18th century, 1790s, and so her life. So she's an elderly lady. So she's very old, and she learned these skills from her mother. So her mother was a good apothecary. So she used to give poisons, and that was, medicine, that was an open business. Everybody knew about her mother, but after her mother died, she was left all alone, and she did not have anyone, and basically she came into the business. And why she became an evil apothecary was a very interesting plot, and I leave that to you read in the book. It's very interesting. She has a heartbreaking story for herself why she became an evil apothecary. And yes, this is the second major and lead character. And the third one is Elisa. She's like 16 years old, and she's basically a girl from the village or countryside, and she's come to London in the same timeline as Nella, 18th century. So she's come to London, and she's working as a mistress. So maid. In those days, they have maid, mistress, basically, who's helping out in the home, basically a servant. So she's working as a mistress to some wealthy lady and her husband, and her story is also very interesting. So she's the one coming asking for a poison to Nella, and Nella is shocked because no one aged 17. She has seen women aged more than 25 come to her for poison, and Nella is the first girl below 20, or teen ages, that she has come to ask poison. And they there's a beautiful friendship forming there. And Eliza's story is interesting as well. So the lady to whom she works, so she has sent Eliza to get the poison. So it was not Eliza acting on her own. So she was working for the lady, and who wants to get killed, and how they are the plan succeed. Those are all interesting plots. So basically this story is about these three ladies: Caroline, Nella, Eliza, and how Caroline uncovers the story of this apothecary, the evil apothecary who lived in the 18th century. Nella and Eliza It's interesting, and each of them have their own background story. If you see Carolyn, her husband has cheated on her and how she's taking it, and there's even a major twist at the end, and it's kind of fascinating to read, and it's a very slow setup. The first few chapters are very slow. It sets up the world, because there are two different centuries, right? 18th century and 21st century, and each when you switch to each chapters, so it reveals something about the other timeline as well, and that's interesting, I would say. So it has this own inbuilt story idea that gives you to switch different timelines, and then they have connected the dots, and you feel something. You can feel that you're reading something intelligent. And yes, during the last three chapters or four chapters towards the climax, it gets very thrilling and very fast paced. You kind of, you want to know what's happening. And I remember I was finishing all the chapters towards the end very soon. 1 or 2 days, I think I've finished it. And yes, let us go to the block that I've written. I'll just bring it up. You got it. Oh, it's here. uh, I'll come back to the live chat. Let me just give you. Yes, it's 257 pages. I have the hardback. I didn't buy the paperback. I have the hardback. This is what it see. And they've given the map of London in 18th century. See, 18th century, 1791 to be exact. So this was something to stir up your imagination while you're reading the chapters that happens in the 18th century. And yes, let's go here. If you see my one word review, spellbinding, it's like a magic. This book makes you believe that there is still magic left in this world. I don't know why the rating is 3.6. I would definitely give 4.5. My rating is 4.5. And yeah, I'll read some lines for you. Killing and secret keeping had done this to me. It had begun to rot me from inside out, and something inside meant to tear me open. So this is a dialogue from Nella. So she's been dispensing poisons now for like more than 10 years, and she feels very bad about it, that all the secrets. So she doesn't tell it to anyone, right? And the woman who are getting the poison from her also doesn't tell it to anyone. So she's kind of feeling that this evil secret is what degrading my health, and she's not well basically. It's her elder age. She could have been better, but since she's feeling that since she dispensed a lot of poisons, she's keeping the secrets of all the women, and that's making her life miserable. And yeah, I had no siblings, few friends to speak of. The life of an apothecary is a strange, solitary one. Yes, again, this is from Nella. So she says that she doesn't have sisters or brothers. So she was the only child to her mother, and after mother died, she took over the shop. And somehow, due to a particular situation, she had to dispense poison. Instead of medicine, she started dispensing poison, and it became a secret business only known to few women in the London society. And this was she says that her life is a very lonely one. Little remnants of history all the way back to Roman era can be found right here in the mud if you go searching long enough. So this is the mudlarking activity that the guy is describing to Caroline. He's trying to convince her that you should come check this activity. It's very interesting. So he says that you can get fragments or artifacts from history all the way back to Roman era. So whatever you get, you can keep. If it's something very valuable, you can keep it. It's a very good activity. So he's doing it for fun, and he's trying to convince Caroline that you should come. So that's what he's saying. 12 minutes, a fraction of a lifetime, yet another enough to alter the course of it. I don't know whether it's said by Nella or Elisa, but it's a very tense situation. I remember this dialogue comes in when something is very bad, something bad is going to happen, and one of them is saying that 12 minutes is like enough for changing the lifetime of what do you say of anyone. And this was precisely what I found so enchanting about history. Centuries might separate me from whomever last held the vial, but we shared in the exact sensation of its cool glass between our fingers. So when she finds the vial, and then she goes, searching about this vial and who does this belong to, and she learns about Nella and Elisa's story, and she basically figures out the story, and then she's coming back at the last chapter. She's coming back to drop the vial to the Thames River, and she says this, okay. this vial is centuries apart. It's like 2 centuries old, right? So basically, the vial belonged to Nella's shop, and Eliza and Nella were holding that vial once upon a time, and now Carolyn is holding it. And her life was also come to a very happy ending at that point, and she says that centuries might separate me from those women, but we were holding this vial, the same exact sensation. So that's what she's saying, and this was a very good line. I like this dialogue. So many impressive lines from the book, and you should read it. I can only put 4 or 5 dialogues here. That's why I always try to limit it to 5. But it's a book filled with magic. That's all I can say. And my verdict: an enigmatic time travel. Yeah, you get to read about Carolyn, who's in 20th century, and you're reading about Nella and Eliza in the 18th century. So you're going to definitely time travel to 18th century and London, right? London is where what do you say? This magic potions and all, Harry Potter, everything originated. So it's kind of that fantasy drama novel. But as I said, towards the end, it gets very thrilling, and these 3 characters will stay with you forever. It's a very captivating story, and the characters with their background plots are convincing and satisfying, and it's a happy ending story. But yes, they should have gone for the what do you say, an artistic ending, and made things look very desperate, and leave you sad. It would have been a very good book. But yes, it's a good happy ending story. So do read it. It's one of those books that you rarely get during these times. It's fresh story, and that makes you sit and read. And yeah, you can finish it in 3 or 4 days if you continuously read it. And it's available on Amazon, or it should be available in any store, because this is the first novel from Sarah Penner. And oh yeah, I read that. Okay, you can see here. The book has been sold into 11 territories worldwide. So it's something amazing. 11 countries basically. So unless it's really popular and famous, it doesn't go beyond your nation, right? So it's a very good book. To check it out, I will check the live stream now. Sri Rishikesh says that he loves to read comic books. Even me. I like. Okay, let me pull this out. Firefox. Yes, comics I haven't read from my childhood, but I have few comics books on Superman, Batman, and The Simpsons, and Tintin. So I've been reading them. I like comics too, but I kind of prefer what do you say, books, normal books to read, because it instigates your imagination. So especially a book like this, you try to imagine the scenes. Comics is something almost like a movie. The pictures are already there, and you're reading from the pictures, so it doesn't help much on the imagination. Comics are something like what do you say, entertainment. But if you really want to get yourself educated and knowledgeable, then you need to go for this kind of books, just words. And Mutukuma says, "Hi bro, what do would you do Tamil book review, bro?" I stopped. I mean, when I resumed reading, I started reading English books. Tamil books I read during my childhood. So I read all Kalki's books, and what else? Yeah, I read Ponniyin Selvan, and then I was impressed with that story, and I read all of his books. Kalki's book, almost every book I've read. Apart from that, I haven't read anything. So I should read it again to do a review. I will try to check. Yes, and that's it. Thank you, Sri Rishikesh, and Muthukumar. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream on myView.books. It's 34th episode. I can't believe that we are into 34th episode. So soon we'll be into 50th episode, and that's something magnificent and really appreciable. And I thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll catch up in another episode, and I will come up with more interesting books. And as usual, the scheduled content will go on. Stay tuned until the next episode. You're watching MaddiE with MaddiE. I'm MaddiE Dawson. Bye bye.